present here or anywhere for that matter is actually 3 people. Well, hold on to that thought and I'll get back to it. So very good morning to dear HMR and my dear colleagues. Well, I'm here today to talk about communication and how can we make the best out of it. What all goes very well, because that gives us a sense of satisfaction. And what goes a little haywire, at times when we are communicating, be it with our children, be it with our peers, be it with our family. So we are here to get to the root of it as to why what happens in our communication really happens. So I remember, in fact, it's a very fresh incident. Yesterday, I met Bindu. Are you here, Bindu?
Yeah.
All right. So I just met Bindu, and we all are really awed with her, effort to.
Yes. Yesterday is when we also saw.
Absolutely. So we are really awed with her effort to have come down to the level that she has, where her fitness and her body is concerned. And it was a matter of not even a month. And there's a big change. So I went to her. I really wanted to compliment her, and I think I must have complimented her every second day. So I just went to her and I told her, Bindu, wow, what a job. And I gave her the stimulus. The one who starts the conversation gives the stimulus. So what kind of stimulus? Where are you operating from? You get a response to that. So she was elated, right? Because she's put in an effort and she would definitely love to hear the measures that she has taken, the steps that she has taken to really reach to her goal. And maybe her goal is a little more ahead. So along with that, when we were talking, I suggested her another tip, which could add to her effort, which you could, really do, but probably somebody had to give an insight. We all don't know everything. I learned so much from you. We learn from each other. So I gave her a tip, which she took very, very well. And the response that I got from her was again very positive. So it was a very, very complimentary conversation. It was a win-win situation. We both were happy. I really, from my heart, wanted to, congratulate her, appreciate her, and whatever I had in my mind at that point of time for her to add to what she's doing, she took that very well. So that went on very, very well, and it gave us satisfaction. I was happy that I talked to her. She must be happy later. But sometimes when we are conversing, things don't go right? The conversation automatically gets blocked somewhere because we don't know what our states of mind are and where are we operating from. Of course, there are factors, so many factors going on, and the conversation does not go right. Now, what is the reason? So we're going to get to the root of it today. And I'm here to explain as much as I can, as much that I know, because there's lots to learn, and I plan to study more about it. So how much ever knowledge I have, I'm just making an effort to pass it on to you. So for this particular, I would say, endeavor, I'm introducing the topic of transactional analysis to you all. Well, it might sound like a jargon. Transactional analysis. कल से पता नहीं कितनी बार मुझे पूछोगे क्या करा रही है तू? But it's once you get to the root of it, it's going to be a very, very normal word for you. So let's break it into 2 parts. I mean, seems like a jargon. So to make things simpler, we divide. Transaction. Would anybody like to, say whatever you know about transaction? What does the word transaction mean in literal terms or otherwise? Anybody? Brilliant. Any different The answer, of course, would be the same. It's the way you kind of project. So anything else? Anything? A shift. All right. Super. And amazing. So we move on with getting to know what transaction is. So any kind of communication between two people, given at any time, that is what is exchange of dialogue. Like I said, the one who starts the conversation is the sender, gives the stimulus. All of us understand stimulus, right? Gives the stimulus, and the one who takes it and responds back is the responder, right? So we give a transaction stimulus to get a transaction response. That is what transaction is all about. But let me tell you something. It's not only a communication between two people. It's communication, a dialogue within yourself. So many times, there are situations wherein we think the pros, the cons, the rights, the wrongs. What should I do? What should I not do? All of that is what? It's an internal dialogue within yourself. And that's, again, communicating with yourself. So, the word transaction makes us move ahead to get to know what is the analysis of it. So the word transactional analysis is actually a theory which was developed by a Canadian psychiatrist, he's a psychoanalyst as well, Dr. Eric Berne, in the late 1950s. It was somewhere around 58. That he came up with this theory which actually told us where we all are operating from, how to make our transaction the best. So it is used to analyze the process of transactions in communications that we have with others. It helps us to know our feelings, it helps us to know our behavior, where are we coming from. And let me tell you, once we are a little aware, there is a change in our communication. We can't help others to change, like we all know about change. We've got to bring it within ourselves. So once you do that, once you even give a try, you end up improving your relationship with that particular person. And that's our end result. That is what we are here to achieve. Now, coming back to the statement that I made right in the starting. Each one of us is really three people. Isn't it amazing? Did anybody think about that ever? Sorry? All right, which are those two? Okay. Very close. Anybody else? Yeah.
Subconscious mind is keep on moving us right or right or wrong.
Again,
And
very
one-
close.
What we project and one would be our inside brain.
All right. So let me just give you a clue to reach the right place. You all are right, because we can't do without all this in communication. But let me give you a clue to reach to the term. So here we are with this pack model that was presented by Dr. Berne. And this model makes it easier, simpler for us to understand where all we are coming from. If I'm talking to you now, where am I coming from? If you're responding, where are you coming from? So, pack model was developed by him. Anything a bit clearer with PAC? What can begin?
Parent ego, the adult ego, and the child ego.
Awesome, brilliant. Can we have a round of applause for her? So that's parent, adult, child. So to get to know a little more, I mean, I am a person, मेरे अंदर parent state भी है and adult है, child ego state है. What is it all about? So let's see that. So Bert said that whenever we are talking something or anything to any other person, there's always a state of mind from where we are acting. So each person has 3 states of mind at all times. So if not at all times, at one time he'll operate from one state, another time from the other state, and then the third one. Depends on the situation. So he said that 3 states of mind are there in every human being, and he termed them ego states. Why ego states? Because we use that, we get influenced by that, and that is how we perform. That is how we communicate. So that's a parent ego state, that's an adult ego state, and that's the child ego state. Now let me tell you something. It does not have anything to do with chronological age. Nothing at all. A person of a child 10 years, 20 years, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 would have these 3 ego states working within oneself. So let's get to know them a little better. Parent ego state. Whatever you have imbibed from your parents, and not only parents, your teachers. ऐसा होता है ना that you learn something and you tend to make it a part of your personality. So we imbibe from our parents, parent figures, and they are actually copied things which we bring into our personality. They become a part of our personality, whatever we like. Even if we don't like, we get influenced. So however our parents were, however they dealt with us, however their personalities were, we tend to imbibe something or the other from them. And mind again, it's not only parents. Parent ego state includes your teachers, like we are our role models to our children, at home and at school. So they do get something from us, even if it's something positive, it could be something negative. We might not realize that it's negative, but it goes out as a negative feature. So whatever we take from them is copied in our parent ego state, and we behave accordingly in certain situations. It all depends on the situation, which ego state are we actually working from. Then comes adult ego stage. So adult ego stage is the accounting mode, in the sense that these are the direct responses from here and now. It has nothing to do with our past. It has nothing, you're not influenced by anything. ऐसा नहीं कि कुछ देख लिया, कुछ सुन लिया तो influence हो गए. No. It's a very balanced, rationalized behavior when you are operating from adult ego state. Coming down to child ego state. Again, whatever you have gone through in your childhood is replayed here. Even if you are 70 years old, that thing which must have come across or you went through it will replay in some way or the other. हम ये कहते नहीं है कि my grandfather कैसे बच्चों जैसे behave करते हैं. This is such a common term. They are operating from their child ego state. So to tell you a little more about the features of these 3, because until and unless you really understand, there is no point in moving ahead and then using this to communicate with our children better, bring certain changes in us, will not really happen. So again, if I put it in one word, parent is the taught concept of life. Whatever we have been taught, and taught not in the sense कि school में आके जो पढ़ा है. Taught meaning we've seen our parents, we have seen our friends' parents, we have teachers of course in the school. Anybody, any father figure, mother figure, whatever we have been taught. So what is it? It's actually not what we are, it's what we have copied. So, what are certain features of a parent ego state? You could be judgmental, you could be controlling as well, you could be critical, you could be very moralistic, you could be patronizing in many situations. And in such a state, you are always biased. Right? It's not your own thinking. You are always biased. When we see the adult ego state, well, the adult ego state is the thought concept of life. What you think, what you have thought about, and then acted. That's present in the here and now. It's not influenced by anything in the past or influenced by anybody in the present as well. It's your own thought process. So it is about being spontaneous. And here we are able to see the people as they are. There is nothing attached to it. No ego states attached to it. So we see as the people are. And talking about child, it's the felt concept of life. What you feel, what you have felt as a child, that is being replayed in many of your actions. And you know, the entire drama in our life is what is that we are operating from a child ego state. Sulking, you know, elated, very happy about that, giggling, you know, with friends we sit and we are just giggling about nothing. That all comes from the child ego state. So it has its positives as well as negatives. Now in this state, what happens is that your thinking becomes muddled. It's not at a level that you can really trust. Your thinking becomes muddled and your decision-making ability sinks down to a very, very low level. So the other characteristics that I told you definitely play in all of us. Rather, all three modes. Can we relate to this? Can we feel that we have been judgmental at times? We have been thorough decision makers at times. We have been sulking unnecessarily at times. Can we relate to it?
Yes.
Would anybody like to, quote any happening, any example, maybe with a child or in your own mind or in your own life that you have faced? Would anybody like to share? Go on. Yeah.
So I had a very strict mother.
Okay.
So, but then obviously I didn't like it that time.
Right.
But then I feel the way I am today is because of her, guidance. So
And-
then I try to be the same with my kids, and my husband does not like it at all.
Right.
He's like, don't be a teacher at home as well.
Right.
Especially my older son. So he gets a little, he's like, and I pamper my daughter a bit more.
Right.
So he's like, you need not be so strict with him. But then my son is like my younger version.
Right.
So I don't want him to do the same mistakes that I did. So I'm a little more strict with him, just like my mom was. So that way I feel I need to go a little lighter.
You do operate from your parent ego state at that point of time. Brilliant. Anybody else wants to share? Like from child ego state, we do so many things. So many things. So anybody would like to quote anything that comes to your mind right away? Parent ego state or adult ego state, wherein we make proper decisions with our thinking. Anybody's mind. Any incident comes to your mind? Or any happening? Shalini ma'am, yeah?
I remember my childhood was very adventurous.
Uh-huh.
बहुत बहुत मतलब मस्ती fun खेल बहुत ज़्यादा.
Right.
So even today I feel while doing my plannings and all, बहुत excited feel करती हूँ when I put something like that कि बच्चे भागेंगे या एकदम stand set होगा कुछ इस तरह का game होगा.
Right.
So I'm always excited about that particular factor. एक भी lesson plan में वो fit हो जाता है. I'm like हाँ ये सबसे बढ़िया lesson plan है. So now I'm connecting कि yes it works.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So you think that it's replayed. So you're replaying it in your teaching with your students or maybe at your home with your own children.
Even my child also, when she's
True.
doing that, I feel happy. I'm like, this is the way, every child.
Yeah. So I think each one of us has something or the other within us. At this point of time, it must be going on within us. कि हाँ यार, ऐसा होता है, ये मेरे साथ हुआ, ये मेरे साथ हुआ. So we are operating from these three ego states at different times. The point is, we need to know when to operate from which ego state to make our transactions even better, to improve our relationships. So let's move ahead and now talk about analyzing of our transactions. How do we really analyze? I mean, कहने को तो बोल दिया transactional analysis. How do we really analyze? What is the way? So for that, first of all, you need to know three types of transactions that actually go on in our lives. Now, from starting to now, I must have even named them because they are a part of our conversation. So one transaction that goes very well, like I described mine with Bindu. It was a win-win situation for both because we were both operating from the same ego state. I was in an adult ego state. I meant what I said, and she took it very well, and she was operating from the same ego state, and that is the adult ego state. So don't get stuck onto the names, but when we talk, we get to know. Are we influenced? Is it our own thought process, or are we just having fun? Right? So we can relate very, very easily. So I would like to give you an example of complementary transaction, and I would like my dear friend here to help me with that. So we want to present in front of you a complementary transaction. Do we have another mic?
I'm good, JJ ma'am. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for asking, Renal. Have you been able to write the workshop report yet?
Yes, I'm just about to mail it to you.
Amazing. What kind of communication? I mean, even if you don't know the name as such, it's a very pleasant communication.
Yes.
So it's an adult-to-adult communication, which is in the right ego state. If I am talking from a certain ego state, she's replying me from that ego state, and the conversation went off very well. In fact, she would have, she could have said something else also, which we are going to present later. But don't think that complementary transactions are only in the adult ego state. No. I want to tell you that in any ego state, from parent to parent, adult to adult, child to child. So let me give you an example of child to child ego state conversation. Renal, would you like to skip this meeting and go watch a film with me instead?
Actually, I would love to do that. I think that's going to be pretty riveting. Let's go right now.
Amazing. So you see, where are we operating from? That excitement. That excitement within us that, yeah, chhod isko, chalte, let's go and watch a movie. So that both of us are operating from a child ego state. Had I asked her that, now tell ya, picture dekhne chalte hain, kya meeting mein baithe hain yahan pe? Kya JJ ma'am, ab serious nahi ho sakte ho?
How frivolous of you, JJ ma'am. Let's focus on work.
Absolutely. If she responded like that, what turn would have our communication taken?
Crossed and blocked.
Judgmental, crossed, totally blocked. I would like to say another dialogue to her, would I? मुझे लगेगा ओहो मैं इतने साल से स्कूल में हूँ मैंने ऐसा आइडिया दिया ही क्यों इसको? Right? So we got to see that our conversations remain complementary, but if they don't go complementary, of course, there's a reason for it. It's your state of mind at that point of time and where you are operating from. So let's move on to the next one, and that is crossed communication, crossed transaction. So what happens? If I'm talking from a certain ego state, I don't get the response, like I just gave you the example right away. I don't get the response from that particular ego state. So let me explain with an example. Have you been able to write that report, Myrna?
Stop hassling me, ma'am. I'll do it eventually.
So what? I am talking to her on a very leveled, like I would like to give example, Eta ma'am. She gives us some work. So at times we are all done and we are happy that she asked, and we get the, we show the work, we get the appreciation, and it remains very complimentary. जहाँ कहीं ये गड़बड़ हो जाती है कि मैम बोले कि have you done it? No, ma'am, I had this work, I had that work, my car's tire, my this, my that. In fact, when she was motivating me earlier for this workshop, I was a little hesitant. So I was not operating from the same state. Probably her measure is to do the peer learning. And if I know something, I communicate. But I didn't take it that way. I was, oh, अब ये सारा काम करना पड़ेगा, अभी मैं एग्जाम देके हटी हूँ, अब मुझे ये करना पड़ेगा. So I was in that state at a certain time in the starting, and slowly I started thinking about it, and I was like, okay, it's a practice for me also. So it does happen that if you're not operating from the same ego state, your conversation does get blocked. Absolutely, absolutely. That's brilliant. It's in our hands. It's totally in our hands. You know, it happens at times. I would like to quote it. Yeah, please.
Skip this workshop and go.
Right.
And if you don't want to, how will you make it an open one without becoming it a blocked or a cross?
No. I only am keen on going. No.
But I mean, either of you
Yeah.
who doesn't want to go, instead of being judgmental, how he could respond you in an open conversation?
No, she will respond. Response तो आएगा ही आपको.
नहीं, अगर no करना है, लेकिन वो blocked or crossed now, but it should be a open one, nice way to say.
Right. Communicate तो करना ही है. मैं कुछ भी बोलूँ पुनीता.
जरूरी तो नहीं है कि मानना ही है कि ज़्यादा
नहीं. ना.
What we can say is,
Yes.
oh, wonderful idea, ma'am. Let's go in the evening. Let's finish our work and we'll go together in the evening. We do not have to say yes to everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is just an example. This is just an example, and that is why I told you that if she's not keen, what would she say? And there communication gets blocked because we both are not operating from the same ego state. I am talking from an adult ego state, she's talking from, I am from a child ego state. And she is getting back to me from a parent ego state. सब कुछ सोचना है, सब कुछ समझना है, कैसे सोच सकते हो आप? Right?
Just adding on to the.
Yeah, please.
I mean, if you want to take it later, that's fine. But
No,
just
no.
adding to it, our parentings have been different, right? Like for instance,
Absolutely.
Reggie said that her mother was extremely strict,
True.
right? So the impact that it had on me, for instance, when I grew up as an adult, was to be carefree because I've had too much of it.
Right.
So when I operate from my adult ego state, then I am the one who wants to have all the fun in the world,
See?
right? So I am still operating from my adult stage.
Right.
Wherein when it comes to somebody else, their adult stage tells them to now be, working or maybe being very diligent.
Right.
We both are operating for the adult stage. Yet it's it's not
It can
complementing
be.
each other.
It can be. It again depends from personality to personality. It again depends. Haji, Raji.
Ma'am, I said that has influenced me only as a parent and only. So I am not,
I'm just giving an
yeah. So
giving an instance.
I wanted to clear that confusion.
Each one's approach can be different. But of course, adult means you're not influenced. You are what you are.
So there are chances that we both are from the same ego state, yet it could be a cross.
It could happen, but there is not so much of a difference in the thought process. If you are in a balanced state, you would always rationalize the situation.
I do feel that there can be a disagreement
There can be, of course.
between the same ego states, but the quality of the disagreements would be a different one.
Absolutely.
It would be, conversing or arguing, but it would not come out to be a cross,
it won't be blocked.
Cross communication.
Yeah, it won't get blocked. We all have different personalities. We can go a little different. But what I want to say here is, this state, if we are talking about the adult state, a general way of handling things hota hai. We have to be non-judgmental. We have to be, that's the right way to go by, right? Now, if we say that it depends from a person to person, what is right or what is wrong. But I'm talking about very basic things. I mean, being non-judgmental. Would anybody say that it's wrong? It's the right way to go. But again, it depends on us as a person.
And Jeevanjot ma'am, also from situation to situation,
It
communication
differs.
to communication. You can, that is what she was saying in the beginning, that we have all of those three. So it depends on the situation.
Absolutely.
So you can be in an adult stage where you are non-judgmental, and you can be in a parent stage when you are
Absolutely, absolutely. Bang on. So basically the purpose here is to understand where we are operating from so we can know that this is not the way, this is a better ego state, let me perform from here. And let me make the I would say an initiative taken by you, and an effort made by you. That is what is required. Moving on to ulterior, and that's the most interesting one. All right, Ronaldo. We are working together in the HOD, she's with me. So Mrinal, we are going to follow a strict methodology here.
Sure, ma'am. Whatever you say, you're always right.
What do you make out from this? When I say that we are going to follow a strict methodology here, in that authoritative tone, I am, sounding adult to adult. But however, what it means, what does it mean?
That there's no open conversation.
Absolutely. What it means is,
No argument.
we got to do it my way, right? Ultimately, it's that meaning. And when she said, now she also did adult to adult conversation with me, right? But what does she mean with it? There's an ulterior motive.
She means that she has to follow you, she doesn't have an option.
Absolutely. What she means is, well, if you have to go ahead, if you have decided the way to go, why tell me, kar lo? Right? So there is an ulterior motive in your conversation. Thank you, Mrinal ma'am. There's an ulterior motive. Yeah, big hand for her. So there is an ulterior motive. You are operating at one ego state, but what you mean within is another ego state. Maybe the other people might not be really able to understand, but this is communication. So communication is always between two people. So she understands where I'm coming from and what is my underlying motive. And when she gets back to me, even I know. But then we are all pali. Our communication doesn't go wrong. So that is ulterior or duplex form of transaction. So these are the three different forms of transaction, and I hope I'm able to clear it with the examples. And thank you, Mrinal, once again for helping me out, because alone I just could not. So let's get to know about these three modes a little more. Okay, so this is a technical representation which I really won't get into, but as you see, little that you can understand is, if the stimulus is going from adult to adult mode in complementary transaction, the response is also coming from adult to adult mode. Whereas in a crossed transaction, which is the third one, if I am talking from a parent ego state, and I'm referring to my child, I expect him or her to return child to parent back. It has to be parallel. But it does not happen, and the other person also responds in a parent to child state. That becomes crossed. And ulterior motive is, I'm trying to project that it's a parent to parent ego state, but underlying transaction is from adult to adult stage. So I think with examples, this is a little clear to you, but it gets a little technical from here. Some examples. Complementary transactions. So there are these two ladies who are parents, their mothers. So one says, kids are lazy these days. And the other one replies, and they are all on drugs. So they are on the same level. They are talking parent to parent. The stimulus is going from parent to parent, and the response is also coming from parent to parent. Likewise, there are other examples. I'll now show you transactions which are crossed. So the response to the stimulus is unexpected. I did not expect this from her. I thought I feel that she's very bubbly and she would, jump at such an invite. But it didn't happen. It was totally unexpected. नहीं तो शायद अगर मुझे पता होता मैं उसको पूछती ही नहीं कि let's go for a movie. But I did ask her because I was expecting, but it went the other way. Husband comes back, and let me tell you that happens with us in our daily life. Husband comes back from work, and in a very adult to adult mode, he enters and he smells the delicious food, and he asks, "What's for dinner?" I'll add to it, "What's for dinner, darling?" And he's in a very, very relaxed mode, but flustered wife. आज स्कूल में मेरे को वर्कशॉप करनी पड़ी, आज ये हो गया, आज वो हो गया, मेरे काम पे ये हुआ. She's flustered. She gets back to him. Stop bothering me. So what would the poor husband do? He won't open his mouth after that. Of course, he'll get the food, but not with the intention that he really asked. How many of us have faced this? Super. Would you like to elaborate a little? I don't want you to bring your stories from home here, but if you think it's interesting enough for the audience to hear.
Like that was interesting, but obviously it happens. Like
It does happen.
school जाने next day, आप function में गए हो रात को, आपको होता है कि भाई सामने से चलें, मतलब क्या, और हम बड़े मतलब सोचते हैं कि हम चलते हैं, हम मतलब
She calls her husband Swami, and that's such a beautiful thing. I really like that. Yeah.
चलते हैं भी, और मतलब obviously मैं alert से फिर मैं उम्मीद करती हूँ कि वो सामने से जवाब देने की हाँ जी चलो चलते हैं, और
True.
दूसरा कहता है, अरे अभी तो फन शुरू हुआ है और अब मतलब he is in child in the state of, I'm like, what to say now? To drag him back, that is impossible.
Absolutely. So here we go, where the conversation is blocked. उसके बाद would she really continue the conversation? उम्मीद ही नहीं है अब तो छोड़ो. So the conversation ends there. So one example of ulterior transaction. So I think there couldn't be a better one that Mrinal helped me with this, but again another one to make it more clear. So this is husband and wife, or it is a boss or maybe two workers. No boss, they are at the same position. So like I would like to go back and I'll ask Shweta, how did you like my workshop? And inside, I have my own feelings. If it goes on well, तो अंदर ही चल जाओगे यार इसको बोलना चाहिए बहुत अच्छी गई है. और अगर कुछ गड़बड़ हो गई है तो एक्चुअली अच्छी तो नहीं गई, बट देखती हूँ मैं क्या कहती है.
अच्छी जा रही है.
So start thinking about your parents, how मेरे parents ऐसे थे. These are just the qualities and different ego states that we are in. Negative adapted child, which who over adapts to others. कुछ समझ ही नहीं है, ये ठीक है ये गलत है, बस इससे सीख लिया. सिगरेट पी रहा मेरा दोस्त, मैं सीख लिया. Over adapts to some quality and then becomes passive, doesn't have his own say, is very compliant to whoever says whatever, has no personality of his own. And negative free child, there are so many that we have here in our classes, who are like, they go wild with whatever, whatever they have in mind. There are no restrictions, no boundaries. Especially we faced this when they came back from homes after COVID. It was so difficult for us to manage. I mean, I remember the children didn't even ask, may I come in, ma'am? चलते आ रहे हैं, चल रहे हैं क्लास में. I had to say, oh, I'm here. You got to ask me. You got to take permission. So no boundaries, no restrictions. Now we have improved that situation from there to here in a year. But I am now telling you easier ways. How do we change our mood to approach the children and make the communication effective, make our relationship with the children effective? So let me tell you, to make a classroom very effective, very interesting, we need to reduce the impact of a coercive parent ego state, be more in our child state for open communication, and at the same time strengthen the adult within us to improve the quality of our interpersonal relationships. So there is some balance that we got to get. So is this clear? Any doubts here? Because if you don't understand this, you won't be able to really apply. And I'm there later on also after the workshop in case you have some. Hanji ma'am. Yeah.
I was also thinking that all of this becomes a part of us also when we are communicating or transacting with each other.
Absolutely.
So one is to understand and identify which state we are coming from.
True.
And if we can evolve a little further and understand which state the other person is coming from.
Absolutely.
That is when we are achieving. So one is when we are transacting with the children. The other is, and importantly so, when we are transacting with each other, because there we can be any of that in different times, and any of that can be the person you are transacting with, which could be annoying for you, but if you identify, okay, maybe there is something that he is coming from this particular mode or stage, then you are able to understand better, and then things can improve.
Super. Brilliant way of putting it together. So first we got to understand ourselves, because the change is what we have to bring within ourselves. I can't change the children, I can't change you, I can't change my people at home, I can't change my friends. So first and foremost is to understand this and then bring the changes within ourselves and try to hold to the situation. Now, following this, let us take some examples from our daily life which we face with children. So, the first and foremost, tangent Tanya. Now, Tanya, imagine, there's a girl, she always goes on a tangent, and your lesson is disturbed because she doesn't remain stuck to the topic, and there are children like that who want to, just go wild with their imagination. So she always goes on a tangent. So probably she's operating from a negative or a positive free child state. Now, as a teacher, how do you think we need to handle that? So let me tell the first one, and then we are going to move ahead with another examples for which I would need your input. So, for handling a child like tangent Tanya, we need to, as a teacher, we need to oscillate between an adult and a positive controlling parent. Because if we just behave like an adult and we don't have the authority on what we are saying, the child is not going to move back to the classroom here. So what are the steps? Fine, we know that we should operate from, in fact, oscillate between two different, and it can be more depending on the situation. But I'm giving a general example. So what can you do? You can be with her for a minute or two. You can listen to her, whatever she has to say, and giving her some time. Some time means it could be 30 seconds, it could be 1 minute, because we don't have that kind of time in the class. And then bring back her focus to the topic. And you might sound critical, don't be guilty of that. You might sound critical at that point of time, but it's like not sounding critical against the person. right? You're critical of the situation. You might sound up, bologe to, maybe the child would think, "Ma'am ne aise bol diya, aise bol diya." But you are critical of the situation. You are not letting the child feel, because you're giving her time. You're giving her 30 seconds. You're giving her 45 seconds. Listen, and then bring back her focus. Now, how can you keep such a child involved? You ask, questions. Keep her involved. You can, maybe involve her in whatever discussions you have. Involve her in discussions. Ask rhetorical questions. जिसका ऐसा नहीं कि बच्चे को कुछ सोचना है. And bring back her focus to the class. So that's about tangent. Tanya, any other way that you feel it can help? Yeah.
Explaining the child that we are in a proper section of the chapter right now, and we can move back to your topic once we are done with this, or you can come and meet me personally and we'll have a discussion.
Amazing. So this is the solution to my next child. Rigid Ranjana. A child who's very rigid in nature. आप कुछ भी बोल लो, उसने जो सोच लिया है वही सोचना है. If this is the way that she needs to write the answer, वो ऐसे ही लिखेंगे. अगर उसके दिमाग में ये reasoning है तो वो वैसे ही चलेंगे. They will not change. They will get hung up on the, or stuck on the same thing. Now, of course, that child is acting from a negative free child state, right? How do you think we need to be to make this child come back to the classroom with the intention that we want? Rigid, totally rigid. So again, this has, okay, any other suggestions? Totally depends from situation to situation. You just need to know the effective modes. So what kind of parent? Sorry, what kind of ego state should you be in? Adult ego state is the one that will work here. Because the child is smart. Which child can be rigid? A child who has smart, who is smart, who has some brains to be thinking and getting stuck to a certain point.
Confidence.
Exactly.
I respect what you're saying.
Super. Carry on.
Yeah, I respect what you're saying, but still there is other option for it. Let's divert ourselves, whatever we are in our present mode, and then we can hear or we can respect the decision later on.
That is super. Yes, sir.
Easing it out with the child. So that
Yes.
her
Yes.
ego is satisfied.
Absolutely.
Logical reason to the
Absolutely. See, we have trained teachers. We just need to know the terms. That is what we've been doing. But once we know, we have gotten to the root of it, we really know that it will help.
sometimes we have to find out maybe we are not being rigid. Maybe she
You,
has a
maybe
point.
you're doing it already.
Maybe she is also right.
True.
And let's find out maybe she has a better yes.
Absolutely.
Sometimes teachers become
Absolutely.
rigid. Mine is the correct one.
I will come to that kind of example also. So, first you got to listen, which is very important. आप किसी भी बच्चे को ये सोच के कि वो गलत है, आप ये नहीं कर सकते कि move ahead. That child will never, ever be interested in your class. So listen, acknowledge the fact, and then after you have listened, and you have to time it, of course. I mean, I'm a teacher myself, and I know we have those precious 30 minutes, and we really can't indulge. But if we are not bothered and we leave these kind of children, it doesn't, we are not doing justice to our profession. So, you got to state facts. After listening to the child, you got to state the facts. Like Punita said, you got to explain it to her. Why is it the way you are trying to explain? And then get on with the lesson. Now again, such a child would be still hung up. Itne easily बच्चे सुनते नहीं हैं. That is the time what Shuchi just mentioned, wherein you can say that I understand the point where you are coming from, but however, I would like the lesson to continue for now. You can come to me in the break or any other time, and I would be happy to discuss this with you. So this way, you are getting back to the lesson and not making the child feel that he or she is left unattended. Absolutely. Absolutely. See, we know about all about our children. True. हमें उनके घर के situations भी पता है. Wherever we have, certain cases where it's not a normal family life, we know that. So we should always keep that at the back of the mind. The next, and I'll go quick with it. Inarticulate in wrong. A child is inarticulate means cannot explain very well what he or she wants, cannot understand your language, you cannot understand the child because वो बेचारा बोल ही नहीं पा रहा है, right? Inarticulate. So what? He is of course operating from a positive free child. उसका कोई कसूर ही नहीं है. He doesn't know the language. You are speaking in English. उसके सर के ऊपर से जा रहा है सब कुछ. Maybe he's not exposed that much as the other children. And the standard that we have in our school, if I talk about here, if a child comes from such a place, it will be difficult for a child to begin with. So here, you got to act as a full-on positive, nurturing parent. Show videos to make the concept easier. Talk to him in his own language. Tell him, give him the confidence कि बेटा आप हिंदी में बताइए. होता है. Convert करना पड़ता है. Yeah. Exactly. Please allow them. That is what even NEP is focusing on. Earlier we used to be a little rigid. कैसे हिंदी में बोल? इंग्लिश की क्लास है कैसे मैं हिंदी में बोलने दूँ? होता था. और हमें ऐसा नहीं कि मेरा मानना है या आपका as a teacher मानना है. It used to come from the authorities. इंग्लिश है तो इंग्लिश बोलो, सिर्फ हिंदी के पीरियड में हिंदी बोलना. So let him come up in his own language, explain to him in his language, and then get back to the normal. Give him a buddy, give him a mentor, and we have that system. That really, really helps. So you want to encourage such a child so that he can express whatever he wants. And the last, show off Sharmila. Do you remember this example the other day? Sanjay ma'am was sitting here and she was talking about this girl. What was she actually doing? She knew something and she was all bent upon showing it off. Now, she might not be an actual show. Maybe उसको इतना आता है. Maybe उसने अपनी mother में ये trait देखा है. So it's inherent. So she's at no fault. And if she's actually being a show-off, then we need measures. Then we need measures. Even in the other condition, even if it's inherent, we need to change this, the quality in a child. It should not be there. So how do you think you'll handle it? उसी का example ले लेते. Same girl.
Maybe give an opportunity. Sometimes maybe we have some, assembly or any special occasion.
Absolutely right.
Make over whatever the art or the creativity she wants to do.
True. Yeah.
Appreciating other children's qualities also. She's humbled down.
Amazing. All that I have written here is coming from you. That means you are getting to the depth of it.
Is it a positive controlling that kind of?
That is one.
We need, right? We form.
Yeah.
We need to draw a line.
Yeah. So that's one. So in this condition, we can have more. We can oscillate between an adult, positive nurturing parent, and positive controlling parent, depending on the situation. कितना show off है? क्या इसके घर में ऐसा है? Has she seen a mother like this and she's become? So there your nurturing comes. हाँ जी.
But in this case, just would like to share. Here it is not positive controlling with that child. It is positive free child one. Because बच्चे को पहले nothing had been given, being they are twins and the other sibling.
Right.
That child is a special case.
All right.
So this child was been nurtured the same way the other child was.
Okay.
But now she is getting an opportunity. She's been free.
Right.
She has been given options these. She's been sent to activities and all. So now she's been let free.
Great.
So that is the nurturing which
Super.
is coming, and she is getting that. So
Yeah.
that's the reason she is doing this.
So that in that case, it has to be an adult and a positive controlling parent.
Yes.
And we bring her back. So we need to, you know, kind of and such children at times, you know, they can act as our assistants in the class. ऐसा होता है हम कुछ पढ़ा रहे हैं और बच्चे को knowledge है, and a child would bring in such point in front of you कि नहीं पता आपको, लेकिन आपको पता चल रहा है कि ये ठीक है. So they can be a kind of an assistant. So take it very, very positively. Acknowledge, give recognition, and then you tell the child, I really appreciate your input because that's a positive quality. You cannot negate it. And then you, however, let's ask the other children's input as well. Just move on or move on back to the lesson. You break kind of eye contact because lot of body language works here. You break your eye contact, move away from her, and then get focused on the lesson. So that is how we take care of this. Now, Transactional Analysis says that strokes in our life are very important. What strokes am I talking about? Anybody would like to? I'm sure you all are doing with your children. But, yes? Somebody's there? Anybody? Super. Strokes are a unit of recognition. You've got to recognize what is there in a child or any human being who is conversing with you. It could be a positive stroke. So we have positive strokes like praising, compliments, recognition, appreciation, rewards in any form. Or it could be a negative stroke. Suppose there is something, हर बार कुछ positive नहीं होता है. Negative stroke means you're making a person realize कि ऐसा नहीं ऐसे. So what you do is whenever you are, you can't just give a negative comment ऐसे. You have to always attach it to a positive suggestion for improvement. But if you give no stroke at all, that again will make the children or anybody with whom you are communicating again make the conversation die. So strokes are very, very important. Shweta ma'am, can you help me with the video? So by the end of today's the workshop, there's a very relevant video here, which will assist whatever I have told you all through, maybe a little more, which is definitely going to help you. I'd like you to just watch that.
Analysis. Eric Byrne demystified personalities for us in 1958 with his transactional analysis model. Find out more about TA with Dr. Peraz's TA for Non-TA series. This is the first of the series. Transactional analysis shows us how people are structured psychologically. Ever wondered how and why people function the way they do? Ever wondered what makes you behave the way you do? What is it that makes you who you truly are? Transactional analysis takes a closer look at personalities and the way people express themselves through their behavior styles. Indeed, TA is now the most powerful tool used for many training and communication development purposes. Isn't it a wonder how TA improves communication to such a great extent? We'll decode this for you. In this video, we'll take a look at the ego states of TA. Ever observed the way you've behaved and reacted in a single day? Let's take any day, for example. Maybe someone stressed you out, perhaps a colleague at work, and you reacted with anger. Maybe you said a couple of unnecessary things. You may have even changed your mind later and let things go. You shook hands with a smile to work towards a common professional goal. Yet, you found yourself sulking a bit for the whole weekend, feeling bad over the misunderstandings. Have you ever felt the way you behave, think, and respond may resonate with your parents or parental figures? Or maybe a younger version of you? Or do you feel you could have handled the situation differently by using the available resources around you? Why do you behave the way you do? The ego state model of TA helps you understand exactly what's happening to you. It brings you closer to knowing personalities and decoding the best communication methods. Definition of ego states. Eric Berne defined an ego state as a consistent pattern of feeling and experience directly related to a corresponding consistent pattern of behavior. Eric Berne describes a person to display 3 ego states. Communication happens via one or all of these 3 states. These states consist of our behaviors, thoughts, and feelings, values, beliefs, culture, and life rules. The TA practice defines 3 states in which we operate: parent ego state, adult ego state, child ego state. This PAC model aptly displays the shifts of our ego states. In our earlier example, we noticed you shouted at the colleague. Maybe you reprimanded them using a parent ego state, one where you disapproved their style of working. Your sulking is a reflection of the child ego state, and the one where you decided to let things go consciously to resume work in a healthy spirit is your adult ego state. With a lack of adult awareness, you may not have been conscious of the shifting ego states. That's what ego states are. Berne says that each ego state is defined by a combination of feelings and experiences which consistently occur together. Here's the definition. Parent ego state. The behaviors in this ego state represent behaviors, thoughts, and feelings that are copied from parents or parent figures. Adult ego state. These are behaviors, thoughts, and feelings which are direct responses to the here and now. Child ego state. These are behaviors, thoughts, and feelings replayed from childhood. Understanding the ego state model allows you to check your behaviors, feelings, and experiences while understanding your connection with others. Sounds complex? Let's make it easy for you. The parent ego state is one where you're influenced by the voices inside your head, and these voices belong to your parents, grandparents, or teachers. Sometimes you speak like a parent by saying, "You shouldn't do this," or "This is not appropriate." It's all about the don'ts, mustn'ts, always remember, and never forget. If you feel you've replayed a certain behavior and felt familiar feelings as you did when you were a child, you might be displaying the child ego state. You might have felt butterflies in your tummy at a public speaking event, just as you did when you were asked to address a class in school. Boy, wasn't that event scary. These thoughts are replayed even now. But if you feel you've dealt with a situation in a grown-up way using your thoughts and feelings to display behavior in tandem with the present moment to determine your course of action, then you're in the adult ego state. What's interesting is that we need all our 3 states for a balanced life. We need adult ego state to enable us for better decision-making skills. We need the parent ego state to live peacefully in the society by conforming to basic rules. And we need the child ego state to keep that spark of creativity and spontaneity alive. That's what makes you as a person. Understanding the ego states gives you the power to understand and be understood in every situation. You give yourself the choice to respond better to situations while comprehending information easily. You not only turn into an effective communicator, but you also build empowering connections for life. Love the concept? Subscribe to our channel for the next chapter.
That's it. And I hope this has made it a little more clearer. And thank you for being such a participative audience.